This is a DUI cop preparing to make a traffic stop. He's eventually going to let this driver off the hook for DUI by terminating the DUI investigation early.
70 briefly. 70. Drifting in the lane. How you doing?
How's it going?
Any reason for the speed?
I got pee.
Make it. You have your registration insurance as well?
Yeah, I do.
How much did you drink tonight?
None.
Smell the alcohol.
She's been great. Thanks, bro.
How long are those? Okay, come on out. Back here. You know how fast you're going?
About 62? 62?
The highest speed I got on radar was 70.
70?
And that was right before I pulled you over.
I just really had to pee, that's all.
Okay. You were also drifting in the lane. So when I was coming up behind you, you were...
Just because I was getting a blowjob.
Okay. Probably not the best decision while you're driving.
This isn't just any DUI cop. Later, I'll show you data establishing objectively that he's one of Florida's top DUI cops. And this isn't just any driver either. This is a police officer in a neighboring jurisdiction and a former officer and co-worker of our DUI cop. This video is a perfect opportunity to demonstrate to you how an experienced police officer can manipulate a situation to achieve the outcome that they want. This experienced police officer has been placed into a complicated position by this fellow officer's poor decision-making and poor judgment. He's speeding, weaving, has a female in a compromised position, which is unsafe, while he's drinking, and then he lies about drinking. This is the second time that he said he was not drinking. If handled improperly with the right media attention, letting a fellow police officer go for DUI can be a career-ending move for a police officer. This police officer is experienced and handled these types of situations before or seen them handled on many occasions. He navigated these waters properly and CYA'd himself and for the department to the extent they supported and stood behind him 100%. My name's Atty Lotter. I'm a former DUI cop turned attorney. I use my experience as a law enforcement officer and education as an attorney to help educate people on how the law really works. If you enjoy this video, watch the next one too. If you like them both, I ask you to hit that subscribe button. Thanks. As police officers mature through their career, they have the opportunity to specialize in various areas while still maintaining their traditional police role and function. One of those areas that a police officer can specialize is DUI enforcement. Any officer can specialize in DUI. All they have to do is sign up for free advanced level DUI training that's sponsored by the federal government, free to the agencies. They attend the training where they're educated, mentored, and guided to how to make DUI arrests more effectively. Once they come back to the police departments, they hit the road running, motivated to make more DUI arrests. 6 or 8 months later, as their motivation starts to wind down, you send them away again to another 2 or 3 day training session. They come back motivated and rejuvenated, further indoctrinated to believe they're the front lines of DUI. Each cycle of this continues over the period of a couple of years, and it doesn't take long before you have a very honed, effective DUI cop. This officer here has that training. He has all that training. He's one of the top 1% of all police officers for DUI. I can't overstress the degree of indoctrination in these training sessions that lead these officers to believe they're the front lines of DUI. Maybe rightfully so. The point is, it's a really, really big deal and would be countercultural for a DUI cop with this degree of training to let an impaired driver go. He has to make a decision, go against all my training with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and NHTSA, or follow the thin blue line. The reason why I know he's a top DUI cop is because as an attorney, I study the breath test records. I'm one of 3 or 4 different attorneys in the state of Florida that has an Excel spreadsheet with all the breath test data back to 2006. This allows me to compare and look for anomalies, evaluate officers. So I did that with this officer. I pulled the arrest stats from 2018. Let's take a look. In the left-hand column, you'll see the top producing DUI officers for the state of Florida in 2018. These results are taken from the breath tests requested by these officers. This doesn't account for 100% of the arrests. If you look to this middle column, you'll see that there's a total of 43,000 DUI arrests reported by DHSMV. Of those 43,000 arrests, I have access and evaluated 29,000 breath results. There's plenty of refusal cases, blood draw cases, and potentially urine cases that never got a breath test affidavit, so they're not included in my numbers. But I think my numbers have a fair statistical representation for the purposes of our conversation. To the right-hand column, you'll see the officers that led the state of Florida in 2018 with DUI arrest with breath test scores below the legal limit. You'll see our officer ties for 11th place there. So he's number 5 in the state for number of arrests and number 11 in the state for number of breath tests below 0.08. Interesting tidbit. There's 47,000 officers in the state of Florida. How many of those officers do you think makes at least one DUI arrest per month? That's 12 DUI arrests per year. What do you think? The number's 500. 1% of officers account for 47% of the DUI arrests made in the entire state of Florida. Whatever that means. So these stats not only show he's a top DUI cop, but it also shows that he's not very forgiving when it comes to people who are borderline. If it were you or me and we were in this situation, his arrest records of low breath test results would suggest he would default to take us to jail. So that's his common course, take you to jail in this situation. However, here, he let him go because of that thin blue line. Wearing a 1776 shirt while relying on your position as a government enforcer of the law to get out of trouble for your own violation of the law doesn't sit well with me. Let me know down in the comments if you agree. So how does this DUI cop let this officer go and not get in any trouble? This is a pretty complicated situation, but this is not a challenge for the experience that this police officer has. He can navigate these waters and CYA for himself, CYA for his department, and even gain the support of his department on social media after. When a cop is a specialist, they're given a wide degree of latitude in their decision makings and handling a case. No backup officer or supervisor who's not a specialist is going to want to interfere with that and screw up an investigation.
Getting a blowjob.
Okay. Probably not the best decision while you're driving, especially if you're in a certain career field.
I understand.
You didn't drink anything? No? Okay. Just hang tight right there. Give me a second. Alright. Not making assumptions, man. Everybody's got a job. Okay? I'm just gonna check your eyes, we'll go from there, okay?
Yep.
You put your feet together, arms at your side. See the finger? Here's what I want you to do, okay?
Yep.
I want you to follow the finger. Finger's gonna go back and forth in front of your vision. All I want you to do is continuously follow the finger, don't move your head. Yep. Understand? Mm-hmm. Any questions?
I do have a up left eye.
What's wrong with it?
When you do your nystagmus, it's gonna go up for a quick second.
What causes it? Is it endpoint nystagmus?
No, it's a head trauma from the military.
Is it just in one eye?
Yeah.
Okay. Left eye?
Yeah.
Okay.
On 128, 243, you copy that, TG for...
Alright, I assume you remember who I am when you worked here?
Yep.
Alright. Looking at your eyes, I would say you're probably close. Okay. So, in lieu of continuing, why don't we call somebody who can pick you up? Sound like a plan? It's not for me. Because if you want, we can continue and we see how it goes. But
I would rather not. I'm in enough shit with my department as it is, so I would rather not. So.
how about we make some calls?
This officer paused his investigation midstream to allow the officer a way out to not continue with the investigation and potential arrest for DUI. After the officer makes the decision, he goes back to his car and calls a supervisor to notify the supervisor of what's going on. This supervisor with a specialist isn't going to have any control on arrest or not arrest. In another situation, if it was a regular zone car, that might be different. One of the things you'll notice is that this officer is very succinct with his activation and muting of his microphone. He kept his microphone on and running until the point in time he was taking the call with a supervisor. You'll notice here in a second, he deactivates his microphone right before he gets to the driver.
So I'm sure I don't need to explain to you, man. I'm going to trust that you wait to get picked up. If I see you pull back out, we'll have a different conversation, which I don't want to have, and I know you don't want to have. Okay, you have lack of smooth pursuit. The nystagmus isn't that pronounced at maximum deviation. You don't have an angle.
The officer sees lack of smooth pursuit. That's the first clue in DUI. That's an indicator of a BAC of about 0.03. The second clue he's looking for is distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation. If it's distinct and sustained, that's a high likely indicator that the person's BAC is over 0.08. If it's not distinct and sustained, that means it's below 0.08. Sustained just means over a period of time. Distinct is the key word we're looking at here. This officer, the DUI officer, says that you have nystagmus at maximum deviation, but it's not that pronounced. If that pronounced equals distinct, which I think it does, then he should be on the side of continuing the investigation because the driver is likely impaired.
Okay, you have lack of smooth pursuit. The nystagmus isn't that pronounced at maximum deviation. You don't have an angle.
If not that pronounced indicates no clue, then he can CYA with his department and not justifying the arrest. This officer leaves the door open both ways and holds that strategically over this driver's head in case the driver takes off down the road.
So, like I said, you might be over, you may not be, okay? Obviously, you're not falling down drunk or anything like that, but the driving wasn't great.
At that point in time, the officer would pull this guy back over and say, hey, based on what I observed before, in addition to your poor judgment of continuing to drive off, I'm now going to continue this DUI investigation and you're going to go to jail. So this is a very strategic move. He left himself open a little bit because if the department were to look at this with a microscope, that sustained does equal nystagmus, and that's a clue. By exposing himself to that little bit of risk, the officer gets the benefit of strategic control over the traffic stop. If this driver were not a cop, do you think he'd be going to jail? Let me know down in the comments. Have you ever wanted to hire a lawyer but didn't know where to start? In this video, I go step by step to help you find a lawyer you can trust in your area. I use Kyle Rittenhouse's situation as an example. I pretend that he contacted me from the jail and I do a search. You'll be interested with the lawyer that I end up finding. But if you want a firearm in Florida, you should probably check out this video series first. Made it for you. Hit it hard. Thanks for watching.